West y'all.
Sam, bro, welcome to the podcast, mate.
No worries, bro. No, it's awesome to be here.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit short notice, but hey, it's all good to have out all the boys and that. So
You don't live here anymore in New Zealand?
no, based in the UK. Yeah, Manchester. So
Yeah.
I've just come home for the Fight for Life. And the reason I jumped on is because they said they'll pay for my flight home. So I was like, oh, why not? You know.
Oh, nice.
So yeah.
Just jump on that one, eh?
Mm-hmm.
So, when did they ask you, and how's your preparation been?
I think they asked me about a couple of months ago now, maybe 2.5, 3 months ago. They put up on our blues. We got a blues chat on WhatsApp, and they put it up, and no one sort of responded. And then after about a week, I sort of messaged them. Ali Williams DM'd him, and I said, "Bro, would they be keen to fly me over from the UK?" So he came back about 4 days later and said, "Oh yeah." So I said, "Oh sweet." And then it wasn't until sort of getting close I was like, "Bro, what am I doing? What am I doing this for?" But anyway, it's for a good cause too. So yeah, no, excited for it. Obviously fighting, coming up against Roy. Obviously, watched him play and all that. Played against him sort of age grade through Tier 2 Roosters and that. So yeah, no, looking forward to it. Yeah.
That's next week, eh?
Nice.
Thursday
night. You being back, when was the last time you were back home?
This time last year. So I came back this time last year.
Yeah,
but prior to that, it was about 3 years. Was the sort of the wait between, because obviously because of COVID and all that. And I couldn't get into the country, so it took me about 3 years. So then the last time I was back was this time last year. So yeah. But I normally come home sort of a couple of times a year to see the family and that.
Crazy, because I think I saw you would have been the Kings game you knew on TV.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So no, it's always good to come back home, bro. I miss home more. Get homesick. So it's always nice to come home and see the family, and also to have the old mince and cheese pies from Boss's shop. So yeah.
How's the pies anyway?
I've had one so far since I've been here, but I sort of thought I'll wait till after the fight, and then I can indulge into the Kiwi pies.
Yeah.
Man, I heard a barbershop trying his whistles that he was supposed to fight Russell Packer.
Yeah. Well, there's the thing, man. There was a case. It was Russell Packer that the name was sort of thrown about. Obviously, he's a big boy as well, so I just said, yeah, why not? Obviously, good chance to come home and that. And obviously, when they sent through the contract, they had Roy's name on it.
Yeah.
So I rang them up and I said, "Oh, is this the right contract? It's got Roy Asatassi's name on it." They're like, "Oh yeah, no, we've Russell's dropped out, so you're going to be fighting Roy." So obviously the tactics have gone out the window because Russell's a big boy, so I thought, I'll sort of just get, I can probably get him in the conditioning part and that. But now then, obviously with Roy, I was like, oh damn, now I'm going to have to train because obviously Roy's quite fit. He has a CrossFit gym that he works hard out on. So, but yeah, I follow him on Insta as well. So yeah, no, he's in good shape.
So how's the training been going anyway? What have you been up to?
I hadn't been doing as much as I wished I had. I had COVID sort of when I found out that I was going to fight in that, and then obviously had my preparation and that sorted, and then I had COVID for about 3 weeks, which that sort of took a big hit. And then when I came back and I was fit, ready to go, the guy that I normally use, he's the rugby trainer. He had he pulled his muscle in his neck, so then he was out. So each week he was like, "Oh, we'll try next week." So then obviously time was on my side. So then I reached out to one of the boys, Bodine Thompson. He's a rugby league boy. He played for the Warriors and that. He's playing over in the UK. He's had a bit of boxing as well. So I sort of reached out to him, and then he was like, "Oh man, I'm happy to help out." So yeah. So he drives down about an hour. I think it takes him just over an hour to drive down to come down to me, Manchester, and we'd sort of just have a bit of a boxing session and that. And then over the last week, I've sort of been going up to him. He's got quite a few fighters that he looks after as well. So then just been doing a bit of sparring with those boys. So no, it's good. I mean, obviously boxing's a lot different to rugby. The cardio is a lot different. So you know, but in saying that, I just love the whole sort of aspect of the training, especially boxing, because it's all about, you know, you think boxing is just about throwing punches, but actually it's a skill as well, because, you know, it's all about the movement of your feet and your hips as well, and the sort of understanding of, sort of, if you throw this punch, he's going to be throwing this. So, and also sort of just, you know, understanding their movement as well. So no, it's been really good, been really interesting as well. So
It's good because it's good to get back into it, into a certain amount of training, because obviously you've been retired from rugby for what, 4 years now? Or something?
Yeah, going on to about 4 years. Yeah. So it's been good because obviously, you know, when you finish up from rugby, you know, with rugby you've got a routine. So each day you wake up, you know what you're doing and all that. So ever since retiring, you sort of don't have that anymore, and you feel lost. And then when you do train, it's almost like, well, there's nothing to train for. You know, with rugby, you know you're training hard because on the Saturday you're going to be able to play, and then obviously, you know, that'll put all the work that you've done during that week into that game on a Saturday. So it has been quite difficult in terms of sort of getting that motivation in that. But then obviously with the boxing, it's just been awesome because it's just given me that passion to drive and drive as well to train as well, and you know, obviously looking forward to the big showdown on Thursday night.
Do you reckon there's a possible call out Sunny Bill after this one?
Oh mate, you know, we'll just see how the fight goes on Thursday, and then I said to them, if it goes well, then hopefully I can call out someone so then they can get me back on the next flight next year as well.
Yeah,
So,
nice.
so yeah, we'll just see how Thursday goes. You know, I'm keen to get back for one more fight. I know the family's not very sort of keen on, you know, old mum, you know, she said, you know, I've had to put through so many years of you playing rugby and now you're trying to get into this boxing and that. So we'll see how it goes this next week, and then we'll see how we get on for next year as well.
And you're looking good, Doc, straight up. When I saw you last time up at the Headers, right? I was like, gosh, come on, put on a bit of beef.
Well, yeah, well then that's a good thing about training as well in boxing, you know, you'll be amazed of how much weight you lose just from the cardio you do from boxing, and it's been good because you know, I had shot up in terms of, you know, it's just one of those things you neglect. You know, obviously just, you know, you're busy of work and all that, and then you sort of neglect your sort of the fitness stuff and that, and then before you know, you put on 5-10 kgs and that. But yeah, no, it's been really awesome. This this boxing. Taking up this challenge because it's really sort of kicked in the gear of my sort of training as well, and I'm feeling fit and healthy as well. So that's good.
Yeah, Vin was saying there that he had to give you his account because all these people depositing for the ticket monies and stuff. And he said it was like half of Nogolofa coming over from the families.
Yeah, man. So it's funny because when I turned up on Friday, so I arrived at 5:30 in the morning on Friday, and then I went straight into town to the media and all that. And they were like, mate, you're bringing the whole village from Tongan with you. And I said, oh, you know what? It's good to come home and to actually, you know, obviously I miss playing in front of my family and friends and that. You know, it was so good, you know, the years 2000 and all that sort of coming up. You know, you always had family each week, you know, coming to the game. And then obviously once I moved to the UK, it was just me and my own little family, you know, and you know, that's one thing that I really missed about New Zealand, is they're having that support around you. So now it's good to come back home and you know, obviously it's not rugby, but it is, you know, boxing is totally different, but it's just nice to have the family. So yeah.
Man, it's got a nice ring to it, eh? Hearing that, you know, over the announcer's voice, and then, you're getting on a crump before you come in, or
well, the funny thing is, I've got all like 20 kids and they're coming down, and I haven't actually told the organisers that I've got all the kids and they're coming me down, walking me out of the changing room. But no, it's good experience. It's just something that I love to enjoy with the kids as well. So yeah.
Okay, your walkout songs.
Yeah.
Was that going to be a surprise on
the kids think it's a bit slow for the boxing and that, but
a slow jam, is it?
Yeah, a bit of a slow jam, bro. So no, it's good. Can't wait.
Whereabouts is it? The fight?
North Shore of Vincent,
okay. Yeah, on Thursday night.
And your first fight?
Yep, first fight of the night, which is good because then that way I can get that over and done with, and then I can enjoy the rest of the night with family and friends as well. So, yeah. But it's funny, you know. Obviously, you know, the island humour and that, everyone's just mocking you and saying, bro, you're not going to get knocked out of there, we're over in England, that, everyone's so positive and supporting and that, and you come back here and everyone's like, bro, you're going to get knocked out. It's like, just crack up, eh? Just good old island humour, bro.
Now that you're over there now and you come back, like, just hearing you talk about, you remember the old banter, for the Pacific Islanders around here, what goes through your head, like, how much you probably appreciate it all?
Yeah, I guess it's one thing that we take for granted, like being over here and all that, because honestly, when I'm in the UK, every single guy that walks past and he's an Islander, you get so excited and you wave out, and if he's an Islander, you're like, start talking and you're like, man, I miss all the island people, and that. Then when you come through the airport and you start slowly seeing them, and then after that, it's like, flip, I can't wait to get back. You know what I mean? But no, it's good, man. I love, island humour and that, and it's just a crack up, eh? You miss it when you're over in the UK and that. But no, it's a good laugh.
Because, I know when you come back to Auckland, like, the blue stuff, because they had the game yesterday.
Yeah. I try to get to the blue stuff in that, but obviously, a lot of the time that I'm here, it's only probably for a short time, maybe 2-3 weeks. So, as much as I want to go to it, it's important to try and spend as much time with my kids and family as well. All the nephews and nieces and kids in there all got games on every weekend. So, it's just trying to sort of make the most of that and support them. And then... So before you know it, I'm ready to sort of pack my bags and on the plane again. So back to the other side. So yeah, I mean, last time I was here, this time last year, I managed to get down to one of the games and that, and did a couple of promos there. So it's always good to get amongst all the boys again, and especially see the new boys coming through. The next generation of boys and that. So no, it's good.
Yeah, because because it'll be good to give back, especially the young guys, coming up and, being someone that supports the Blues,
Well, it's funny enough, like a lot of the kids in there, like kids now, they probably don't remember who like our generation is, but it's all their parents in there. It's like, oh, you used to be my favourite player, or you're the my favourite team back in 2003 and all that, so, but yeah, no, it's good, I love watching Super Rugby, especially the Blues, because obviously it means a lot to me. Obviously that's where a lot of the rugby that came through, and just watching my sons and that sort of coming through the same sort of system and thing and that, it's awesome to see. It's almost like deja vu, of what I sort of come through, and it's just seeing the kids in that do it. It's sort of, it's a special thing, in the heart, so yeah.
Yeah, last year we got the opportunity to watch the last home game of the season, and I think it was a semi-final. I usually, if I make it down on time, I usually collect a bit of money from all the boys standing behind the post just to present our player of the day. And I took Simo and Robin.
Oh, yeah.
So they let us come in and we present. It's just funny because, as an old boy, you try and be professional and say, it's an honor to see this generation play. But then Sam started talking and he's putting that to your boy. And it just went from being serious to like how to mock your day. It was like so much for like trying to be professional and say, we're proud of you guys. But bringing the boys through the school, man, like that's massive, eh? Like just hearing their Tuitupou name.
Yeah, no, it's good seeing a lot of the boys, kids in that coming through. I know because my kids were homeschooled. My sister, she homeschooled all her kids and also my kids as well. And so I sort of asked her, would it be possible if you can send the boys through to school? Because, obviously for them to sort of get recognised in the rugby system, you got to come through the school. But then obviously St. Peter's was the school that they were going to go to, because obviously they'd been offered a scholarship, I think, through some of the sports teams that they played in, some of the parents and that went to St. Peter's. So St. Peter's was obviously on the list for the kids to go to, because obviously they were offered a scholarship. But then I asked my sister, I said, for us, especially out west, but like every time I come home, you just see busloads of kids and they're jumping on the bus and then heading towards out central, and it's sad to see, because, the potential that we have out west, but we see that a lot of them all get poached and go to out central because of maybe the schooling's a lot better, but also maybe the education and the sporting that's probably a lot better. But that means a lot of our schools out west suffer You know, a lot of the potential that we have out west, we sort of lose it. So, I sort of spoke to my sister, and she was like, "Oh, you know what?" And also because John Senior was at school as well,
Yeah.
And now I think that was the only thing that sort of let my sister sort of let the kids come to Kelston was because of John Senior as well. So I was so happy that she let them go to Kelston.
Yeah, shout out to Johnny, man.
I know. Yeah, they're doing some good work out there. Obviously the last couple of years, the boys have been doing well. But I always knew, like my boys, they had been together for years, coming up through the grades. And and that was one thing that I always saw, is that if we can try and keep those kids out west and keep them and try and get them to go to Kelston, they'll, the future of Kelston is going to look good. And obviously it just showed after the last couple of years that, they've come through. So it's all about just trying to keep our, all the talent that we've got out west at the schools out west, because you look at Liston, they've been doing well, but obviously well enough to still stay in the 1A comp and that. But no, it's good to see, and if we can get more and more of the kids in that out west, staying out west, then hopefully we can have maybe 2-3 teams out west, playing in the 1A system, first 15. So that's something that, hopefully in the years to come we can see that, and then, it'll be good for Auckland West, So
That's good, because you're probably the third guy from Kelston Boys that's on this chair and talked about that. Talked about how kids are moving towards Central, and kids from out west, But when we talk about that with the other boys, what's happening with trying to keep the kids here and stuff?
I think it is the opportunity to, like, sort of, like you say, like if the opportunity comes, because it's a scholarship.
Yeah.
Depending on how much the scholarship covers, like if it only covers, like, say, year 9 to 11, then from 11 upwards, it's a half. If it's a full scholarship, any parent's gonna want their kids to go. Like, you can't compete with that. If it's a free education, fully paid, everything, even getting picked up, all the rest of it, we can't compete with that, because our brotherhood, as strong as it is a brotherhood. There might be a handful of, like, Graham Henry scholarships that they give out. That, compared to what St. Peter's, St. Kit's, Grammar would offer, it's a no-brainer, man. It's go to where the opportunities are. But I mean, if you're gonna say come and play football, you're gonna make it, because he's an example of it. Him and Ballsy and that Wax. That's an example, man. Come to the school, because they say, like, there's the pond of players, but out west, when you come to Kelston, you're just another fish in the pond, and it's the ones that swim the hardest, and that stand out. And, like, Sam's evident of, like, man, no matter what, size is not an excuse. It's about the engine and the ticker, It's all about hard work and grit. And you and your brother Missy, mate, the two tiniest guys on the park with the biggest hearts. But but that's what I see as being the thing.
And I guess as well, it's up to some of the old boys to bring that message across, just to be role models and talk to the kids. And stay out west, I guess.
Yeah, no, it is important, but obviously, with the way things are going, with the cost of living going up and that, it's hard for parents to see that. They just obviously want the best for their kids, and when there's a free scholarship going, who wouldn't want to, put their kids through a free scholarship, because it takes a lot of weight off a lot of parents' shoulders as well. But we're quite lucky enough that a lot of the kids that sort of stayed around the last couple of years have been, it just showed that, if we can keep them in out west, then, we can win championships in that. But in saying that, I would never sort of hold anyone back from going out central, because once again, it's all about opportunities, giving kids that opportunity, whether it's playing rugby, sports, or even academic, you want them to excel. So no matter what.
That pathway to have a career through rugby is a big one there. Like, you can be a player, but you can also be admin. You can go out around the world and
No, hard out. And I think that's something that's really important, because that's what I'm doing at the moment. So I retired from professional rugby to become a rugby agent. I've done a lot of work out in the UK, in Europe, with Dan Leo in the Pacifica player welfare. And that was a topic that always came up was agents. And to be fair, when you're in New Zealand, like I was. My agent here, Bruce Sherrick, who's the big boss here for Esportif, now it's called Wasserman. He was awesome for me here, and he'd done everything. But then once I went to the UK, the guy looking after me over the UK he was literally just there, picked me up, shook my hand, got me to sign my contract and then he'll be gone. And then I won't see him until 3 years later when my contract is coming out of renegotiation. And then he'll come back in the picture, negotiate it, and then he'll be gone again, And that's quite similar to quite a lot of the boys in Europe, They don't know who their agent is. Literally, he's the guy that just rocks up at the end of their contracts, renegotiate, and signs them on again.
So you found sort of like a niche to...
Yeah, well, for me, it's just trying to add the experience that I went through as a player and just to really help... the players. It was more the Pacific Island players over there, that side of the world, was to really help them because you just see a lot of boys struggle over there, whether it's because of clubs don't understand the Pacific Island ways, and they think that he's not putting into team culture and that he's not sort of speaking up and that, but it's because island boys are quite shy, to be honest. They like to keep to themselves and they like to do all their talking on the field. With a lot of clubs in that they didn't feel that they felt that the players weren't giving in or weren't making much of an effort to contribute, and then obviously the clubs were sort of getting upset and then sort of letting guys go. So that's a lot of the stuff that I've been trying to do over the last 3-4 years is to really help guys on that side of the world, whether it's on the field or off the field. Mainly off the field for families, because you ask any rugby player, you chuck them in a new environment, they'll just fit straight in because you train with the boys every day, and then you're going away on trips and that, so you get used to the boys, where the families and the kids and that, they're pretty much on their own. They have to find their own way around the community, new lifestyle, whether it's a new school, kids have to get, so there's a lot of pressure on parents as well, especially wives who have to go to Europe for the first time, and that's something that I want to try and do, is to really help support not only just the player but the wives and kids as well.
Especially for the Pacific Island players, because there
massive.
must be a lot there now. In the NRL, there's like almost 50% Polynesians playing in the NRL.
More than that
now.
yeah.
So in the UK, France, all these rugby contracts.
Yeah, probably the UK now it's declined quite a bit. A lot of the boys now go to France because obviously these visa things that you've got to get through to get into the UK, where France there isn't. So literally they pick up a lot of kids, and especially from the islands, and take them straight to France. But we've found that over the last 5-6 years, there's been about 3 or 4 suicides for Pacific Island boys through rugby, because once again it's just that pressure on them, where a lot of the boys who go to France, they still have to support their families back in the islands, so they're sending money home all the time and that, and the thing is, if they don't make it, they feel that they've disgraced the family, or they feel embarrassed because, they had the weight of the family depending on them, so yeah, that's one of the things that, we've found, and sort of hopefully we've sort of created a good community in that for a lot of the island boys to come out and speak to, and we sort of make trips out to France and that quite a couple of times a year, we put on seminars and all that, but also just a time to sort of meet up with all the island families as well, and it's a pretty good day too. So we put a umu on, the Tuilangi brothers put on a umu and that all for all the boys, and then all the boys and families come, and then you got the Wallace and Fortuna crowd there. They got dances and that, so that ends up being a really good weekend, So no, it's awesome.
It's pretty sad the way you talked about the suicides and that with the guys there with no support. They're there with no support, but now you've come into that space now to help out.
Yeah,
and
well,
you must be real busy. Like, there must be a lot of avenues there.
Well, it is quite busy. But then also, because we're all doing this on the side of our other jobs as well, So it does become a bit hard on a lot of boys that sort of do it. But the reason why we're doing it is because we're trying to make a change and trying to help a lot of the boys, especially a lot of the boys from the Pacific Islands. Because if you look at now, a lot of those French clubs are now starting up academies in the islands, and especially in Fiji. Before you know it, these going to be Samoa and Tonga as well. So we're going to have loads of Pacific Island boys literally flying straight from the islands over to France. And this is a country where language barrier is massive. They don't really speak French, English over there. And the French people are stubborn too. If you don't know how to speak French, they won't try and speak English to you. They'll just speak to you in French, which is quite difficult. But it's good because the clubs in there are recognising that and really helping kids, a lot of the players in that, to learn the language. But then you got some boys who just, they just don't want to do it. They think that rugby is just rugby. But, if you do go over there for rugby, you've got to be actually in it to sort of learn the culture, learn the language as well, because that's going to help you transition into a new environment. But then, obviously the guys that sort of do become a bit lazy and sort of just rely on just speaking English, they sort of struggle quite a bit.
Between the Southern Hemisphere and the Northern Hemisphere, obviously Northern Hemisphere's got all the money. And it sounds to me like, how you mentioned the French got their academies now in the islands and Fiji and that, it's just going to get more and more that way, inclined. Like, with South Africa leaving Super Rugby, going up north, and then All Blacks Australia. It's like, so everyone's going up there now. So from your perspective, living over there, or being here and then going over there, like, is that the way it's going? It's like, is the power shift?
I think the power has shifted quite a lot. But, you still see that, the talent that's massive in New Zealand and Australia. The talent here is like awesome. But the thing is, there's not many teams. There's only a couple of competitions and that's it. Where, you look at France and that, for example, France, they've probably got the best setup in the world in terms of they've got it right. And if you see that they're obviously the French team, the national team, they're actually doing really, really well. They're probably, Ireland's number one and they're probably number two. But just the way they've got everything sorted, they've got their top league, then they've got 3 leagues underneath them that are professional. But then also they've got the academies as well. So like they've got the 18s, you got your 17s to sort of 18, 19, 20 that are playing week in, week out, in a competition where, which is a pretty good standard. And then if you're good enough, then you go up and play in the top 14, and then if even better, in the Heineken Cup. So, obviously the French have got it right. UK, they're still struggling a bit. Even though they've got their own premiership, they're struggling massively. But yeah, France is the place to be. Obviously, everyone wants to put on that black jersey, become an All Black, because that is massive, and a massive honour as well, not only for the players but for their families as well. But if you want to go somewhere where rugby's sort of guaranteed, I think France is the place to be.
And how do you see that happening for us in maybe 5 years' time or 10 years' time? Because, I really think it's going to dwindle down, Because, to be honest, when I watch Super Rugby Pacific now, it's not the same anymore. Like, Australian teams aren't that competitive. And you're only watching the New Zealand teams play each other. Those are the games you watch. And then if it's not that, it's going to be in a row.
Yeah. No, hard out. And obviously the good thing about it is that you see like the Pacific Island teams. You've got Fiji Jura, and then you've got Moana Pacifica. But in saying that, it's probably going to take a bit of time for them to actually become a dominant team. They still haven't got the sort of the foundation right, in terms of helping the Pacific Island teams. Obviously, they've still got players in Moana Pacifica. They're making themselves available for New Zealand, which defeats the whole purpose of being a Pacifica team. But if we can sort of, obviously Fiji's coming quite strong over the last few years, but but the thing is, if we can get Fiji, Tonga and Samoa to a good standard, then at least we've got 5 teams on the Southern Hemisphere that are quite strong. You know what I mean? Obviously you've got New Zealand, Australia, But then obviously we need the other three, So New Zealand and Australia need to do a lot more for our Pacific island nations, because if we can create a good, strong 5 team there, even a series there, it'll be good, because look at Europe, they've got the Six Nation, and that's massive. That's probably the biggest competition in the world in terms of financially as well. So everyone's trying to break in. Everyone wants to break into the Six Nation, but you got England, Scotland, and that they're like they don't want to share. They don't want to share their purse of their money. So
and there's a good competition for those guys, because they're playing every year. There's hard fought competitions. You know, when over here now it's just there's the rugby championship, eh? So South Africa's still playing with us, with that. They're not in Super Rugby, but they're in the rugby championship, I think. It's interesting, eh? Like, you must be happy for Tonga, because they got some good guys coming back, eh?
Yeah,
coming into that fold, because they've relaxed the rules a little bit.
Yeah.
Now got the 3-year stand down.
They have relaxed the rules a little bit, but you'll find that it's good to have those boys back and playing for Tonga and Samoa and that. But you just feel like we want to have the boys when they're at their peak, where at the moment we're sort of getting them when they're just sort of past it. Yeah, they still give a lot of experience in that for the players and that. But if you look at Mate Matonga and Samoa, the rugby league, they've got guys playing there now. They're at their peak, and that's where we want the island teams as well. Boys playing for our island teams when they're at their best. So then when we do play, we're actually competing against the top teams of the world. We're with the best players from Tonga and Samoa.
Because that Rugby League World Cup last year, that was massive, in terms of what Samoa and Tonga did with the fans around the world and stuff.
No, it's awesome. It was great to see. I was at the games as well. Went to the games and that, and got to go to the camps, Samoa and Tonga as well. And it was just awesome to see that, the talent that we had. And it does show that, if we can get it right, that we can be, just like the rugby league. We can be the top. The top teams in the world. We can beat the top teams in the world. Unfortunately, with rugby, we're still behind quite a lot, and we still need a lot to be done behind the scenes for it to sort of get closer there. But we're not going to argue that we do have the talent. We do have the talent there, but it's all about sort of getting them when they're at their peak to play for the island teams.
When they changed the eligibility rules around, the other problem was the overseas contracts with overseas rugby clubs. Like, some Pacific Island guys couldn't get out of their club to play for their home countries there. And that was another. Yeah,
I think that World Rugby sort of it's funny, because obviously World Rugby gives there's a window for the players that the clubs have to release them, but then some of the games in that are played outside of that window. So then guys will play 1 week, and then next they have to go back, because the club was like, well, no, it's not in the window, so then they have to come back. So that sort of disrupts the whole camp, and the team as well, where boys have been training 2-3 weeks, and then all of a sudden then a week after, then they've got to go back. That's a massive disruption in the squad. So I think there's more, that we can do to sort of help, things that we can do to sort of help teams like the Pacific Island teams and that, and, the other teams like Georgia and that, because, rugby can be a big game. It's a global game, but you can see it slowly declining. So hopefully in the years to come we can, get it back up to that, because rugby is a good game, but we're slowly losing a lot of support from our fan base and all that.
As a sports agent now, and helping the Pacific Island people, how we talked about the contracts and that, like, it's good help to let them know what they're getting into, getting involved in, because I guess that's one of the areas that we might not understand, like what we know we're going over there to play, but what are the little other fine
Yeah, what a lot of boys.
finer details.
Yeah,
they don't
no,
know.
exactly. Like the small printing and all that.
Yeah.
You know, the good thing about sort of the UK now, like most contracts are quite standard, which is everyone's pretty much on the thing. And then obviously if there's any changes in it, then it's on different sections and that it tells you. But it's just the little things of just having clauses in the contracts and that to allow boys to sort of if they reach a certain number of games, then they can get extra bonuses, or if they're because most contracts, if you're injured for a certain amount of time, then the clubs can terminate their contracts, and and to think like the game's changed a lot now. A lot of guys are getting injured a lot more, and injuries now are taking a lot longer, so. That's some of the stuff that players don't really understand that they should have in their contracts. A lot of boys and they just see the dollar signs and they're just happy to sign away on it. But at the same time, before that, it's these contracts of agents and that a lot of players just literally just sign for the sake of signing it. They sign it because they want to find themselves a deal. So then a lot of the boys that have reached out to me that sort of asked me to help them out, they're stuck in contracts with the agents, and what players don't understand is that contracts of agents is the same as a contract for a rugby club. Once you sign a contract with an agent, that's it, unless you got a clause in it. And a lot of my contracts that I have, they've got clauses in it that if boys are not happy, then they can terminate their contract straight away. Because for me, it's all about giving boys the opportunity. And as an agent, you're working for the players. It's not the other way around, where a lot of agents think that the players are working for them. You know what I mean? So for me, it's like, it's just like going to the doctors. If you're not happy with a doctor, then you just go out and look for another doctor. And that's the way agents should be. But, agents now, they literally just sign boys in, lock them in, especially young kids as well, because, it's almost like it's almost a lottery. They sign up 10 players and they're hoping that one player out of their 10 would sort of get up to the top or break through to the top. So for them, it's like it's a lottery for a lot of the agents. But for me, it's all about, I never got into to become an agent for the money. It was all about creating pathways and helping players. Because for me, it's like I enjoyed my career as a rugby player, and I just want to see boys do the same as well. Have a long, successful career. Yeah, there are going to be ups and downs, and I'm going to be there to help them out and give them advice and that. But you really want them to sort of enjoy it. A lot of the boys in that I speak to a lot, especially a lot of young boys, is that the first thing I ask is, why do you want to play rugby for? Why do you is it because you want to become famous, or do you want it because finances? You want to you want to some guys want to just look for contracts that give them the biggest money. So I was like, fine. Some guys want to travel the world. Fine. Some guys want to use rugby as a vehicle to get a university scholarship. Yeah, we can find clubs that can give you university scholarships while you're playing. So it's just those little things like that we can take for granted. Use rugby as a vehicle to get you where you want to be after rugby. Whether that's like you sign a contract for 4 years with a club, but they pay all your university studies. You can do it all online. Just those little things. So then when you finished your 4 years of rugby, you've come out with a degree. And then you can, there's something on the back of rugby that you can use. So it's those little things that, for me, that I wish I had the advice of a manager and all that to really help me out. But at the same time, there are good managers out there, but a lot of the island players are just too shy to speak to them or don't want to hassle them. And I think with me being a Pacific Islander and sort of being there and done that with rugby boys in the rugby sort of environment, a lot of boys find it easier talking to me, telling me that, they're not afraid of swearing at me and telling me this and that, because that's just the island way. And that's what I want, I want boys to be able to be comfortable, to be able to tell me if I'm doing my job. If I'm not doing my job right, then tell me, Thankful, I'm lucky enough, touch wood, that none of the boys have got to that point. But that's part of the feedback that you want, because you always want to improve, you always want to develop yourself, and grow as well. So if you don't have that feedback, that criticism from your players, then you're not going to know whether you're doing it right or wrong.
No, that's good, man. Because even when you talked about how because having a rugby career is a short lifespan, and so if you don't have any backup after that, well, what are you going to do? So it's good that you have systems where they can do a degree if they want, and look after them after their rugby career is over. Like I know I've seen Dan Neal's Oceans Apart, and he had some guys on there that specifically spoke to that kind of thing, like not having a plan after playing.
Yeah.
I mean, the Rupini one was a sad one.
Yeah. No, it was, and I think with Rupini, he was just the same as well. He was coming from nothing, and all of a sudden having all this money. He was overwhelmed, but then obviously, he didn't have the people around him as well to sort of help him out, because the people around him saw money as well. So if he was getting money, then they're obviously getting money as well. So which is a shame, because if he had the right people around him, he was the man then. But when you sort of think of the way he finished up, he didn't really finish up on good terms. So if he had someone, then he could have played for a lot longer, and his name would have been a lot bigger as well. So,
do you guys actually try and set out and look for players, or do you use it as a word of mouth sort of thing?
Well, yeah, for me at the start it was just word of mouth, because for me it was about not poaching players. I was really against about picking up young kids, because kids, you look at rugby now in New Zealand, mate, you got kids at 14, 15 already talking about agents, or talking about they've already got agents, or their parents is like, and that age, you should be just enjoying rugby. The rugby's changed a lot from when we used to play, where you could just play rugby because you were playing with your mates, enjoy it. But now there's all these academies and all that, and then, they're doing way more rugby stuff now. So by the time they get to 19, 20, boys all rugbyed, all rugbyed out, because rugby's just their part of their life, And that was one thing that, for my boys, I said to them, play as many sports as you can at school. Because you pick up all the skills in there from other sports and that, and you can apply it to whatever sports that you want to do. And then obviously I had people ringing me and saying, your boys, or, they're not concentrating on rugby because, he should be at training, but he's doing the athletics and that, and then I said, well, why do I want to tell them to stop doing that? Because, they should, at school, they should be just enjoying all the sports. Once they've done from that, once they've finished school, then they can sort of really focus on what sport they want to do. Because, you pick up all the skills and all that from all the other sports, and then you can apply it to you can apply all the sports and that from trainings and that, and apply it to whatever other sport you want to do, and it just, I'm surprised that a lot of the schools don't do that, don't allow a lot of players, but in the day, priorities change now. It's not about just enjoying it and letting kids and that do all sports. It's like, okay, it's only just rugby, or it's only football, or it's only basketball. So I think if we can try and change that mindset of a lot of the teachers, or even just at schools and all that, and let them play all the sports and that, I think it's going to be more beneficial for a lot of the players and kids and that later on in life.
Do you think kids playing nowadays are sort of better off now than maybe kids were when we were that age, in terms of like?
I think kids now have got more resources compared to how we were coming through. Like if you look at schools now and the resources, the halls, the gyms and that, the weights and that they've got is probably 10 times better than what we had back then. We didn't even have gyms at schools. If we did, it was only a couple of barbells. So the resources are all there, but I think just in terms of the focus is only just on one sport. You know,
Yeah.
when we were playing, man, we were doing wrestling. You know, whenever there's when we found out there was a school sports trip coming up, yep, all
your
the boys are
badminton skills too.
yeah, bro. Badminton, yeah, jumping over the fence and that later on in life, you know. So yeah.
Now that band, the Oceans Park series, that's good. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good lessons.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're an agent and you think of those documentaries and you think of your generation and the new guys that your clients with.
Yeah.
Like, is there times where you think, okay, this guy might be headed that way, like a bad direction, and you're there. It's okay. I gotta see what's happening. I'm gonna.
Yeah. Well, for me, being an agent has almost been like a parent. You've got to tell these players how it is. If they're going down the wrong track, you got to tell them early. You got to tell them straight. Because for me, it's all about helping boys. Creating pathways, but at the same time, giving them direction. Because I find nowadays is that kids now, it's all about me. What can I get? What can I? I want this. I want that. Instead of just doing the hard work. There's no such thing as like boys just training hard. And then sort of getting the rewards after that. And they want their rewards first before they've done the hard yards. The expectation for young kids as well. Young kids want to sort of make big time before even putting in the years or the time. They don't know that, us players back then, for us to sort of, especially coming through school, they think that we just played first 15 straight from first 15. But we had to play under 15, third grade, second 15, and then first 15. A lot of kids now, they just think, when they come to school, they're like, I want to play first 15. Well, but hang on, you forgot that these steps before you get to first 15. You've got to actually earn the right to play first 15. So yeah, no, there's a lot of good players in that, but I think the expectation of becoming a superstar straight away, I think that's where they're a bit sort of naive. You've got to actually start from the bottom and work your way up, even if that's playing second 15 for 2 years. And then maybe on your last year of school, play first 15, because that's probably that process or that the step up you need to become a better player. A lot of players just get upset that they're playing second 15. They're not in the first 15 team straight away. So yeah.
And the competition in the UK, the professional competition, is the salaries transparent amongst the public and the?
No, it's not transparent. Everyone's all on different. Obviously with first 15. With Super Rugby, these are standardised contract. So the first year, first 1 or 2 years, everyone's on a standard contract. Where over in UK, it's just depends on how good your agent is. So, but in saying that, you play club rugby, everyone gets paid playing club rugby. We're over here, everyone just,
Club rugby, that's crazy, yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. Mm-hmm. You can go and actually play for a club, get paid each week, and the club will sort you out with work and that, or put you onto sponsors and all that. So, in terms of networking and all that, rugby is over in Europe is by far, up there because, some boys get paid 300 quid, that's almost like $600 a week for just playing club rugby. And it could be a club rugby sort of 4 levels down, getting paid 200, 300 quid a week. And then the club's helping them with work. And then, on top of that, they could give you a car as well. So there are perks of playing in Europe, but at the same time, I don't think the skill level is as good as here. But, there's a lot of support over there.
Mm. The reason why I asked, because I was comparing it to American sports, where the salaries are transparent.
Yeah.
Because in the player's point of view, if you're a star player, of course you're going to get the max. And if you're a player that's coming up, you know where you are in terms of everyone knows what your salary is, so you know what to do if you want to get up there. I think.
No, well, you can sort of roughly guess what a lot of the boys are on, but in terms of each player's contracts are all different. It varies. And obviously with, you know, if you're English, you know, these different strands of where your contract starts and that, you know, sort of if you played for 18, 20, England 18s, England 20s, you know, and you're sort of in the club and that, you know, that sort of changes a lot of stuff as well. So, yeah.
Man, I gotta ask you a question. If you picked in your whole playing career a time period of your like footy life that you enjoyed the most, which of those years would you highlight?
To be honest, I would say second 15.
Oh wow!
Yeah. We had a lot of boys. We had a pretty good team as well, and obviously that was the first time Kelston had won the second 15 competition as well. With Dan Lafayette was the coach.
Dan.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, man.
Nigel Hotham, he was the coach as well then. But yeah, it was because, you know, obviously our first 15 was also, I think that year our first 15 lost to Otahu in the finals. Yeah. And our second 15 we ended up winning it that year. And you know, we had a good team. We had a good bunch of boys. Lots of, you know, crack up. You know, a lot of the boys and all that. We just really enjoyed our time together. And I think that was set up the next few years after that as well, because after we winning that second 15, I think that brought through a lot of players realising that actually second 15 can be, you know, a good team as well. And then sort of, so we kicked on from there. So, but probably the second 15, that was probably, you know, it was a good year that way.
Shout out to Dan.
Yeah.
Dan Lafayette, man. Now I'll be honest, because the furthest I ever was playing for Dan.
Yeah.
Playing seconds. Like I surprised myself how fit I was. Like just because he'd do the training with us. Like the down and ups, the Henny Maulers.
The Henny Maulers.
The Henny Maulers being 150. They were 300s, man. Like I remember I did a rep training and with the Henny Maulers, and it was like this goalpost to that goalpost and back to the half. I was like, that's a half a Henny Mauler. What do you mean? Our Henny Maulers with Dan Lafayette was this goalpost to the other goalpost to the soccer field's goalpost and back. I was like, oh, surely, where Henny Maulers from? It's massive.
Yeah.
Were there any times like when you were at school, like I remember we had the All Blacks come one year and they trained with us in the morning, and I remember you got a 30 and I remember you asked Carlos Spencer if he was going to do any more Toffee Pop ads. Did you ever pinch yourself realizing that you're going to play outside him like a couple of years later?
Nah, well, to be honest, I never sort of pictured myself playing for the All Blacks. I just literally played rugby because I enjoyed playing with all the boys and that. I never saw myself playing it full time or being professional. For me, it just happened, you know. I just played it because I enjoyed it, and then all of a sudden I just kept making teams, and then I became an All Black. And you know, I think it's one of those things where if you're not expecting it, you know, and it does happen, it's like I don't think if I didn't make it, it would have sort of bothered me too much, because for me it was just about enjoying it. The biggest thing I got out of it was because I was so small growing up and that. And for me, it was just proving a point. And for me, it was that just smashing any guy that runs at me, especially if they were a lot bigger. And for me, that was the biggest thing I got out of playing rugby. Was just trying to kill people and just show that, you know, size doesn't matter. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed my time.
Because you're known to be one of the hard hitters in rugby during your career. Like, is that technique you sort of mastered? Like, do you remember the first time you thought that, man, I think I'm really good at this?
Well, the first time was when I thought, oh man, I need to work on it, was when my brother used to run over the top of me in the front lawn. And it was from that days, bro, when I was like, nah. And then obviously, as I sort of, but the thing is, he was always a lot bigger, so he would run over the top of me. But then obviously when I started playing against kids my own age, then obviously I was like, oh, actually, you know, so then I think that's where I just got the confidence from. And that's where I see rugby league as a good thing for young kids, because when you become confident at tackling, it just makes things a lot easier. Yeah, and I think I just love killing people, kids. I can remember playing at primary school for Te Aratu Peninsula, Te Aratu Primary, and we were obviously playing league back then, and I was killing kids and that, and that was actually the first championship we won. Oh, what I had won was the Auckland Rugby League Ida knockout competition, and that was at primary school, and winning that was like there was a taste of knowing what it's like to play with a bunch of boys, and especially with like the primary school that we were at, there was no one, we weren't kids that were special, it was just kids that enjoyed playing with one another. Mm-hmm. So then we went on to intermediate, Te intermediate, and then obviously that's where I started meeting quite a lot of the boys, because obviously, you get to play against Rangeview and all the other intermediates and that, and smashing all those boys, and it was like, oh man, and then obviously went to Rutherford, because I went to Rutherford there first, didn't I? Me and my brother, Munda, so we were at Rutherford first, and then obviously ended up at Kelston after that for our senior years, even though he was there for 5 years, but yeah, we were there just to do our senior years, and that's where like the friendship became even a lot stronger, because we knew a lot of the boys in that through just playing against them. But then obviously when you started playing with them and that, then that was the I think that's where the brotherhood really sort of started. Especially with me as well, because I played a lot of the boys, a lot of the guys there like Nick Buckley, Sean obviously went to St. Peter's first and then came back, and Shere Whanua. Those boys, we all played rugby league, so we all grew up playing rugby league. Boris Dankovic playing rugby league at Te Atu Roosters. So league was, the one that we all played, and then all of a sudden, we all ended up playing at Kelston playing rugby. So
was it the free tracksuit?
It was, bro.
Free tracksuit in the kit.
Yeah. So that's where the sort of love of the game became. When you know that there was something that you're good at, and you kept getting a free trip away with the school and all that, and the uniform and that. So yeah.
With concussion being a big deal now, the rules have been changing a bit, like past 5 years or 6 years, alright, like different tackling rules and that. Like, I know you're not playing now, but if you were playing today, like how different would it be? Is it any different?
I wouldn't be playing, mate. Yeah. I wouldn't be playing. Well, it's hard because you obviously want put the player safety comes first, but at the same time it's like now I look at the game and it's like this game's ruined, and I think that you can see that the way the game's declining as well, because it's crazy. Rugby's a contact sport. You can't stop hitting into people's heads, by accident, so, I find it hard watching rugby now. I prefer rugby league, to be honest, because, you can still see the big hits in there. And even if there is a head-eye tackle, the referee put them on report and then the game just carries on, So I think rugby needs to have a look at what the NRL are doing and the way they coach things and that, and especially rule things as well on the field, because I think when teams are going down to 13 men against 15, it just kills the game, So yeah.
So, because even in the UK, that you can't tackle above your waist now or something.
Yeah. So.
In the schools, is it? And club level.
Club level now, yeah. So
is that just experiment, or are they just experimenting?
They're experimenting, but it's still a proper rule. So they're bringing it in for next year. So yeah, I think sooner or later it's only going to be ankle taps only.
A lot of offloads.
Yeah.
Because even I heard, because even in NRL they've been talking about that hip drop move that they're calling now. But then when they put on a report, they look at it and no, it's not a hip drop, but it's too late because they already caught the the penalty in the game.
Yeah, and it is different because obviously different referees see it different ways. So they've got their different opinions on how what rules or what laws what And I think that's what ruins the game, because there's too many grey areas to get it wrong, and unfortunately they get it wrong quite a lot of times. So, Especially, I just hate when the Ebbies lose too, like to England.
Yeah, it's my worst team right there.
Yeah.
But the World Cup's this year. Ireland's doing well.
Yeah.
And you played over there.
Mm-hmm.
What is their secret, or is it just their New Zealand influence? Is it Joe Smith's influence?
I think it had a massive. Joe Smith did have a massive influence on it, but it is saying that as well. I think they've got a good, well, especially Leinster. Leinster's got a good system coming through. You know, they've a lot of young kids in that they're bringing through and all that. So I think they've got it right, but at the same time, I think they've got some good coaching staff as well behind them as well. Not just the coaches, but behind the scenes too. They got things quite right there.
Yeah, it looks like Ireland have good resources now, eh?
Yeah.
And I think they're just well prepared to beat the All Blacks. I think.
I think, well, you know, obviously everyone's talking about Ireland because they've been New Zealand and that, but you know, it's always hard to you know, because every year, you know, it's either the one team's sort of coming to the end of their season, and you know, and then the other teams coming to their start of their season. So it's always, but when it comes to a Rugby World Cup, you know, you find that that's when teams are quite even because everyone's had the same preparation, you know. So hopefully this year the World Cup, Ireland get beaten by Wales.
It's going to be a competitive World Cup.
Yeah,
I don't know who's going to win.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Probably the first time,
I think this year you can see that, you know, no matter who you think's going to win, you know, there's about 3 or 4 other teams in that right behind them. So it's going to be a really good World Cup because there's so many good teams now. But in saying that, you know, so many teams do well leading up to the World Cup, and then they just sort of, they just don't seem to sort of play to their best. So yeah, just hoping that Tongan and Samoa will do well this year.
Yeah.
I won't hold my breath though.
Yeah. I made a post that I said I think Samoa will win a sevens gold medal before they win the World Cup.
Pretty much, yeah. At least that's a chance. So yeah.
Sweet.
All good.
Yeah, man. I think I just want to say thank you. Will. So, like, sometimes I pinch myself that I sit on this side, you know, interviewing guys that Kansas let us bring in.
Yeah.
But like, I appreciate you for, you know, you're allowing us the window and the time to come in Talanoa. It's been surreal a bit because I've got to bring in the boys and lay something and leave a digital footprint behind.
Yeah.
And just for you to make the time to come and share with us, Docs, it's massive, man. Because not only have you got the girls here, but they can look back on it and go, this is the Talanoa dad had before he jumped in the ring and got TK'd or slipped and pulled his hamstring in. But I appreciate it, man.
No worries, man. Like I said, you know, it's always, I'm always happy to help out, and no matter what, you know, and especially with Kelston. Kelston has a soft spot, soft spot in my heart as well, because you know they. You know, obviously, I always say that I'm from Rutherford and that, but I think Kelston's the one that put me, you know, they're the one that really helped me excel to get to where I am, you know. So, but, you know, you never forget your roots and that. So, you know, it's just like rugby, you know, every coach in there has their process and, you know, have their part of your development through years to make you who you are. And, you know, I was fortunate enough to say Kelston was, you know, the benchmark that sort of really helped me kick on. So yeah.
So more training to your fight.
Yeah. So obviously I've finally turned up, and Peachy's looking after me, mate. So he's putting in the rounds. He's to be honest, he's tough. He's real good too. So yeah, he was like, bro, you sure you did some training back in UK? And I said, I did. But he's like, mate. So yeah, so no, he's been good, man. He's been taking me through the rounds and that, and hopefully come Thursday. I've learnt enough to get me through. So yeah.
Just look at us and say, if I wink like this, check out the towel. But if I don't blink, then I'm all good.
No, I'll make sure that the girls have got the towel, bro, because they can throw it in. They'll know when Dad's...
Check on the towel and then jump over the roof and get that on roof. It's all good. Nah, Malo Ducks.
No, all
Yeah.
good, bro.
Thanks, Sam, for
Appreciate it.
coming
a
on.
lot. No, all good.
Yeah.
Oh,
Good luck for next week.
cheers, bro.